Okay, so we're going to look at the law of sines today. If you're interested in a proof of why this works, I can do that with you in class. But right now we're just going to get into what the law of sines is and how we can apply it. Okay, so the first thing to recognize is that your um, side A, there's a relationship and a proportion between a relationship between this angle and this side over here and the side opposite. And then if we deal with angle B, there's a relationship between this side, we're talking about the side here. So back on the side A, I'm looking at that length there. And then lastly, if I look at angle C, there's a relationship between that and C. Okay. Now, what the relationship says and the law of sine says is that if you take the sine of A and divide it by A, that's the same as taking the sine of B and dividing that by little b, which is the same as taking the sine of C and dividing it by little c. Okay, so you can see here it's making connection between A and A. So that's, whoops, that was supposed to be yellow. Hold on, let's make that yellow. So the sine of A over A, and then sine of B over B, and the sine of C over C is in blue. Okay, so let's go to the next example and use this as in an example. Okay, so we're going to start off with a triangle where we're just given some information, but we're not given all the information. Okay, so we're going to start off with the fact that we know that this is not a right triangle. So we're going to say this angle is 93 degrees, this length is 15, and this is 48 degrees. And we're asked to find x over here. Okay, so if we start off kind of matching up what goes with what, the 48 is going to go with x, and 93 is going to work with the 15 right here. Okay, so we're going to set up a proportion. So our proportion that we're going to set up is, I'm going to say that the sine of 93 over 15 is equal to the sine of 48 over x. Okay. So the next step right now, what we want to do is we want to solve for x. So to solve for x, I'm going to switch these two first. So I'm going to say x is equal to the sine of 48, x over 15 I should say, over the sine of 93. Okay, and now I want to get x by itself, so I'm going to multiply both sides by 15. So I'm going to take 15 times the sine of 48 over the sine of 93. Okay, so now if I plug that into a calculator, I have a graphing calculator right here. So if I plug that in, I'm going to say that the 15 times the sine of 48 is that, and I'm going to divide that answer by the sine of 93. Okay, and you get 11.16 or 11.2. Okay, so I'm going to say that I got x is approximately 11.2. Okay, in the next example, I'm going to find an angle. So let's say I have a length of A here, a length of 120 degrees here, and a length of 11 and a length of 18. Okay, and the question is find the measure of angle A. All right, so I'm going to start off with drawing what's the law of sines here. So I'm going to say A is going to be to this as 120 is to 18. Okay, so if I write that proportion out, I'm going to say the sine of A is to 11 as the sine of 120 is to 18. Okay, the whole goal is to find angle A. So I'm going to multiply both sides by that 11. So the sine of A is equal to 11 times the sine of 120 divided by 18. All right, so now we know we need to find the sine. So this is where we're going to use our inverse sine. So I'm going to say the inverse sine of 11 divided by the sine of 120 divided by 18 is all going to equal the measure of angle A. So if we bring up our calculator, and I'm going to take the inverse sine of 11 times the sine of 120 divided by 18 equals about 32 degrees. Okay, so that means the measure of angle A is 32 degrees.